In 1999, Morpheus offered Neo a choice between a red pill and a blue pill. In 2018, this country fractured between red and blue. In 2022, I'm here to tell you that if you really want the truth, more voters are neither red or blue. Yet, they have no representation, no choice, and no options. They have to choose between candidates chosen by the red people or the blue people. I'm David Esrati, and I'm running for Congress as an American, as in red, white, and blue. I'm a veteran, an activist, and a small businessman. I'm asking you to join me in reminding the professional politicians in Congress who their bosses are. I support ranked choice voting, campaign finance reform, and a verified voter information system, all so we can stop having the best politicians money can buy. It's time to elect a veteran who will work for you, no matter what color they want to label you. Please go to electesrati.com and learn more. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Jurassic Park, you thought those little baby dinosaurs were cute until they turned into out-of-control carnivores. That's sort of what happens to government when we elect people based on very expensive advertising campaigns and propaganda. I'm David Esrati. I'm a veteran and a small businessman running for Congress. You don't want professional ad people and pollsters to sway your vote. All those hot-button issues like gun control, abortion, borders are all politicized to stop you from voting rationally. And thinking rationally seems to be in short supply these days. Most Americans have been voting against their own best self-interest for a long time because we've allowed money to buy our leaders. 1 million Americans died in the last 2 years because our leaders couldn't lead. It wasn't that hard. Mask, distance, test, and then vaccinate. In an instant, we had billions to spend on healthcare for COVID, when for years we've been told we can't provide healthcare for everyone equally in this country. That's an unintended consequence of the pandemic. If you think about it, our government can pretty much do whatever it wants, or what the people who buy our politicians tell our leaders to do. We also had a ton of money to prop up businesses. The next thing you know, it turns out that a living wage was not only possible, but necessary. As a small businessman who won't sell you out to corporate interests and lobbyists, I can tell you that it's time to fully understand the consequences of companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google and their effect on small business, and to remind you that small business is the #1 creator of jobs in this country. So this next election, don't trust this ad or any other political ad. Do your homework and think before you vote. It's time to put this ad man in Congress because I know that the best advertising is based on the truth, not the size of the budget or payola. Or you can just vote based on who has the money to buy their way into Congress and live with the consequences. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Hi, I'm David Esrati, and I'm a prostitute now. I prostitute myself for donations. I have to beg, panhandle my way to Congress. I'm not joking about this. I'm dead serious. The American election system is broken. We're not running elections. You're not choosing your politicians. You're sitting there being fooled. And as Pete Townsend said, I won't be fooled again. So, what's being fooled? Well, first off, there is the 1,000th of the 1% that actually controls elections. Because most Americans don't give a dime to federal campaigns. In fact, it is unreported any donation under $200 that we have to require the identity of. I tell everybody who donated, but that's me. But of the 2.8 million people in the United States, this is in 2020, only 0.86% of the U.S. population had contributed. 0.86% of the population had contributed 200 or more to the federal elections. Yet collectively, these were relatively high spenders had supplied almost 74% of all campaign funds. So we have the rich choosing who's going to be your next congressman. The politicians draw the borders of the precincts and the districts so that they pick their voters so that they know they can win. We spent over $5 billion in 2020 on just the presidential election. And of that, 328 million people so far, only 44,000 people, a 1/100 of 1% of the United States population has given given 10,000 or more to this election, adding up to 2.3 billion, etc., etc., etc. And that's only the stuff that's publicly reported, because we now have dark money groups, which spend influence election outcomes, but do not have to disclose their donors because they claim to be non-electoral. And that's just a few elite donors that are kicking that money in. The more money comes from Washington, D.C. than 20 states combined. That's where all the PACs are. They're all lined up in the lobbyists. That's where most of the money comes from. I have no K Street lobbyists giving me any money. The only one I got was $2,500 from Sherrod Brown, who gave equally, as far as I can tell, to every Democrat running for state rep, rep in the state of Ohio. I don't know if he did to other representatives elsewhere in the country, but that's the only money I've gotten from a political action committee. Joe Biden raised 10% of his money from just 6 zip codes. Washington, D.C., New York City, a New York suburb, and a suburb of Indianapolis. Go figure. So, the reality is, everything we do is influenced by money, and we spend way too much. We spend more than any other nation on earth. And in 2020, we rewrote the book. And it's insane because, for instance, in the United Kingdom, when Prime Minister Boris Johnson spent $16 million on their 2019 campaign to hand them a majority in Parliament, that's about $21.3 million based on today's exchange rates. That's less than the amount Democrats and Republicans spent on just the 21st Congressional District in Texas, where Chip Roy, who's a Republican, held off a challenge from former state Senator Wendy Davis. That's it. One congressional district equaled what they spent in the entire country of Britain. The amount spent in Georgia, you know, that runoff with Ossoff and Warnock, sorry, will rival the GOP of the Federated States of Micronesia, which the World Bank pegged at 402 million in 2018. Micronesia's 4 states have a population of about 104,000. This is crazy. I love it that the Bloomberg spent 1.1 billion, almost all of it his own money. This was in a short-lived campaign, and that compares with the GDP of St. Kitts and Nevis, a pair of islands in the West Indies that gained their independence from the United Kingdom in 1983. Their 52,000 inhabitants are united under the motto, country above self. We don't believe in that. It's self above all else, because that's what we've got, a bunch of selfish jerks running our country. So why am I on this topic today? And I'd like to welcome the 3 of you that are watching on YouTube, and I can't see any comments on Facebook yet, but I would like to say hello to Jennifer, who's checking in. So I don't know what she's saying, but we'll leave it at that. What happened that's got me off on this kick is I sent out an email to my database of backers and voters that I'm targeting on Sunday night. And apparently sometime between Saturday and night and Sunday morning, some bot had decided to mass attack my website and test over 10,000 credit cards, stolen credit cards on my site to see which ones went through, so then they could go and do purchases on other sites. The payment processor, which was Stripe, cut me off. Okay, that's fine. We inquired, what do we have to do? And they said, well, here's what happened, and you need to make the site more, what did they call it, more friction in the process. Well, we've already had enough people not be able to complete the process because it's a 2-page process instead of a single page. But okay, so we did some things. We enabled us. I don't want to give it all away, but we enabled a service to deny mass attacks, and we added a CAPTCHA to our credit card processing. We said, okay, we've done it. Oh, now we have to check it. No, we have to turn it back on. Oh, no. That was 24 hours ago and counting, and they still haven't approved it back. And I am currently unable to accept donations unless you mail in a check, which is slow, or you use ActBlue. Now, ActBlue is the Democratic version of Anodot, which is the Republican version. And what these companies do is they charge an outrageous percentage, like 4.5% of every transaction that you process through them in exchange for the ease of use and everything else. Now, ActBlue went down for a little bit this year, and Tim Ryan's campaign was screaming. So was Dan Whaley's campaign. Oh, we lost a day's worth of donations. That's tens of thousands of dollars, maybe 100,000. Who knows? Between all the candidates on ActBlue, it could have been millions. That's why I really didn't like using ActBlue as my primary, but I have it set up. But we've done everything they've asked, and still down. So we're in the process today of leaving Stripe behind. Now, one of the things I proposed for a long time was a thing called a donor registration system. Just like we have voter registration systems, requiring donors to fill out their ID officially on a site and donate through that site to whatever legitimate candidates are running for office, and it tracks all the money. And it does it in real time. And no, you can't do it for your wife or your employees or anything else. You'd have to fill it all out. It'd have to come out of your registered bank account. It would have to be an ACH. It wouldn't be a credit card. It wouldn't be any of those things it would be tracked back to you. And it would be reported in real time. And guess what? Since the whole thing is ACH, the rates are a lot lower, and it would all be handled by the government through the FEC, posted in real time, and they would issue us debit cards in order to pay our expenses. So those expenses would also be tracked in real time. All of a sudden, candidates actually have to start running like a real business instead of like a charity that's hiding things from people, because that's what they've been doing. But that's in itself is not enough, because we still have the problem that, look, politicians aren't ad agency owners. That would be me. Politicians don't know how to buy ads. They don't know how to make ads. They don't know how to run ads. And so there's a lot of waste spent. And I've said this before, it's all in the fourth quarter. When Toys R Us, well, no, they're not in business anymore. When Kohl's, they may not be in business much longer, but, Target, maybe they won't be in business, because guess what? All that's left will be Amazon and maybe Walmart at this rate, because Congress has no ambition in enforcing antitrust and supporting small businesses, and even what we used to consider large businesses, and making sure that they can compete, because Amazon controls almost everything. And between them and Google, which leads you to where the best price is, guess what? there's a whole bunch of people being left out of the equation and a chance to operate and make money. So what we have is a system that is all focused towards making the rich richer and the poor poorer. And it doesn't matter how much money all of you would give me. I'm not going to catch up to the 1 million plus that Turner already has. I am not going to all of a sudden have 19 billionaires backing me. The deadline's done. None of the people who donate now will be reported until after the primary, after the general election, November 8th. So the only way you can really protest this process of running an auction instead of election is to not only to vote for me, but to tell your friends, to tell their friends, to tell their friends, etc., that there's a candidate out there who's running with $35,000 while the congressman is trying to buy his seat with $1 million plus, where he gets 79% of his money from out of state. But even that isn't enough, because even if we were, suppose we went to federal financing of campaigns and we gave everybody the same amount of money to, produce their ads, build their website, do their mailings, buy their signs. Suppose we did all that. Suppose we just said, screw it, we're taking all the money out, we're going to pay for it as the taxpayers. One, it'd be a lot cheaper. Two, it would be a lot more fair, everybody would be even. But three, nobody knows what questions to ask. Nobody's actually looking at the voting records, because sometimes they're so hidden you can't find out what people voted for. You don't know what their real stands are. There's no way to check and see if your politician has an IQ bigger than his shoe size. I mean, we already know. We've elected people like Madison Cawthorn. I can't say his name. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ted Cruz and Jim Jordan and Mike Turner, who's never had a real challenger and has had a district custom made for him, so he can't lose. But these people, they don't actually talk to you. They don't tell you anything, and you don't know what they stand for. So last night I was at a candidates event. It was held by the Greene County Tea Party. Very well organized, very well done. No questions and answers, but everybody got 5 minutes to speak. 5 minutes is an eternity compared to the 3 minutes we get, or a minute to answer at some of the other events. And some people got up with prepared speeches. Some people sent proxies to read something to them during this. And I got up and I winged it. Why did I wing it? Because I'm speaking from the heart. And I showed them this t-shirt. You can't. Defund politicians. That t-shirt, I showed it to them. I wasn't wearing it. And that got a rise out of them. But I talked about this whole process. And I said one of the things we need to do is just put an age limit. It's not term limits we need. To put an age limit. 70 years old and you are done in politics. Leave it to the younger people. Let's not have an entire petrified House of Representatives and an entire petrified Senate making decisions that affect this country for the rest of our children and grandchildren's lives. So cut it off at 70. That goes for Supreme Court justices. That goes for federal court justices. That goes for public employees. At 70, you're done. Hell, 100 years ago, you weren't supposed to live past 70. Let these people retire and have a vacation and use all those great benefits and their great pensions, right? Why the hell is Nancy Pelosi still running this country at 82? Other than the fact that she's making a ton of money doing it. And that's the other thing. I said, I don't care about a Democrat or a Republican. The Democrats won't claim me. The Republicans don't. So I said, that little D next to my name, just pretend that stands for David. Okay? But again, we don't know what these people's ACT scores are, their SAT, their ASVAB. We don't know what kind of grades they got. We don't know if they know how to answer a question because they're really not asked that many questions when they're running for office. Think about it. The League of Women Voters asks 2 questions, gives you 50 words each, maybe 100 if you're lucky. The Dayton Daily News, they might give you 2 column inches. There has to be a way for voters to find out more about the candidates they're electing than TV commercials, yard signs, and some brochure or mailer that says, Mike Turner fights for the base. That's not enough. Where is their creativity? Where are their ideas? What's their vision for what they're going to do? Now I'm going to be a junior congressman if you elect me. What am I going to do, right? In terms of going to say, well, I'm going to be the senior, I'm going to lead the House Intelligence Committee. Yeah, the one that oversaw torturing people at Gitmo. Come on, dude. You didn't serve. You've been a bad lawyer your whole life. You've been a politician your whole life. Okay? What ideas do you have to solve the problems of the future? I'm sorry. He's voted against anything to make insulin affordable. He doesn't care about your security. But boy, if it comes down to the tank plant in Lima, he's on it like a fly on you-know-what. He wants to make sure the Army has tanks they don't even want. He's there buying airplanes that the Air Force says they don't want. He loves spending money on the military-industrial complex because that's who punches his ticket. So, suppose you had to take a test to run for office, where you had to actually answer things and tell people what your positions are, and they could hold you to it. Yeah. After you vote, hey, you said you wouldn't do this. You didn't explain why you did it. Well, you're not going to stick around much longer. That would be a great start. But the reality is so many Americans have been left out of the process, and they don't trust the process, that the process is starting to break. And then we've got idiots saying, Trump won the election. Oh, the Chinese controlled our voting machines. Well, yeah, I agree. We don't need to vote on a computerized system. Paper ballots work just fine. In fact, they standardized them in Canada, and they've worked great. No other country in the world has such screwed up voting systems as this one. And it took Trump to sit there and turn it all into a mess. But there's been no proof that there's been any fraud. But even if there was, he lost the popular vote by a large enough margin. And our system is so screwed up that we're giving states with populations smaller than cities in most places equal representation. One of the things we need to resolve here is if you don't have enough people in your state to have 2 members of the House, you shouldn't have 2 members of the Senate. I mean, it seems logical, doesn't it? When you think about it. Because otherwise, we should just split Ohio into like 4 different states. And then we get way more representation. Or California splits into 10. But why? All this duplication would just cause problems. So, right now, even if you like me, you probably can't donate to my site, although we're working on that. Hopefully we'll have it fixed by the time this video is done. Or you can go to ActBlue and make a donation to give to the party that won't give anything back to me. That's fine too. Or, more importantly, you can go find that video that I made of me speaking last night. You can share it on social media and tell your friends to share it and say, this is the guy I'm voting for and why. And you should check out this live stream, and you should subscribe and hit that little notify bell so every time I go live, you know what's going on. And this is really important. On November 8th, make sure your friends go and vote. Pick at least 3 or 4 and make sure they go vote, and make sure they vote for Democrats. Why do I say Democrats even though they don't accept me? Because the Republicans are batshit crazy. We really cannot have abortion be banned. We can't make it easier for people to carry assault rifles in this country. It's already got to the point where congressmen are scared and spending tens of thousands of dollars on their own personal protection. This is an America that we have given ourselves by allowing a few people to manipulate all of us through money, power, and influence. Mike Turner won't debate me. Mike Turner is smart enough to know that I will kick his ass. Call his office and say, hey, when's Mikey going to debate Esrati? And he's probably going to come back, well, he hasn't raised $500,000, so I don't have to. It looks like we're temporarily blocked on Facebook. Oh, well, something I've done is I'm naughty again. But love that. All of a sudden, Facebook is now in charge of elections. Who elected Mark Zuckerberg in order to limit and change political speech? Who said that Stripe could have controls over my donations and cut them off at any time? These are very real problems. I got a notice from Facebook this morning that after November 1st, you can't change any ads you're going to run or put new ones in up until the 8th because they don't want last-minute attack ads sneaking through. People, ads are not how you learn about a candidate. You should know about a candidate by their track record, what they've done in the community. And while it may seem stupid, some of the things that I've done, like hang 600 plus free basketball nets, it made a difference. Maybe not to you, but there are a whole bunch of kids that were real happy when the city finally was embarrassed enough about the state of their courts that they spent $1 million and fixed them. You might not understand why I filed a lawsuit against the library or against the school board or against the FBI and the DOJ. There's reasons for it. I'm an activist. I plan on going to Congress and serving you. I plan on communicating with you every single day, what I did in Congress, why I did it, what's coming up, get your input, and go forward. Because Mike Turner hasn't had a town hall in 20 years. So if you want to get one of these t-shirts, you want to get a hat, you want to support the cause, write a check out and attach it to a carrier pigeon and send it to 100 Bonner Street, Dayton, Ohio, 45410. Or better yet, just stop by. We got custom fitting, we got changing rooms and everything. But it's not about the t-shirts, it's not about the hats. It's about making sure that this message gets out. That we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to allow the 1%, 1/10, 1/100th, 1/1000th of the 1% to continue to buy our elections. Just to finish this out, Biden and Trump and their outside allies combined to spend an estimated $6.6 billion on the battle for the White House, more than twice as much as Trump, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and their prospective allies doled out in 2016. That's the GDP of Liechtenstein. It has a population of 39,000. It's the fourth smallest in Europe, behind Vatican City, San Marino, and Monaco, and boasts one of the highest per capita GDP in the world. Better yet, why don't we just settle this all with just fundraising auctions? You know, like those birthday things you do on Facebook? Whoever gets the most money from the most people wins the election. Then we take all that money and we donate it to the federal government so they can do their job. That's it. We'll see you tomorrow, 4 o'clock, same time. Thank you so much for watching.